My name is Sean Dorsey. I'm Director of Public Works for the Village of Mount Prospect. If you're attending, you're visiting the Algonquin Road Bike Path Project neighborhood meeting. The purpose of this meeting is to have a virtual presence where we talk about the Algonquin Road Bike Path Project. It's a project that the Village of Mount Prospect is planning to develop and ultimately construct that involves the construction of a bike path or a mixed use path along Algonquin Road, essentially from Dearborn Court all the way over to Elmhurst Road. So from the western limit to the eastern limit, just about along Algonquin Road within the village. Can we move to the next slide, Steve?
Sure. Click on the, sorry. Okay.
Yeah, the presentation this evening, what we'd like to do is present the project, kind of show you what we're talking about, explain some of the background. I'll start by introducing the team that we have here that's worked on the project. I'll talk a little bit about the background, where the project came from, what some of the project goals are, and some of the existing conditions and the key issues that we're trying to address. Then we'll talk about the proposed improvements. We'll show you a map that kind of denotes how we plan to design, lay out, and construct the improvements. And then we'll provide a project timeline, how we see the project moving forward. And then we'll allot some time for questions and answers. Given this virtual format, since the members of the panel are the only ones that can speak, we ask that everyone use the Q&A button. There should be a Q&A button on the Zoom webinar software. And if you have a question, please feel free to type it in and we'll make sure that it gets answered. So if we can move on, Steve. The design team for this project includes staff from the Village of Mount Prospect, as well as the engineering staff with Christopher B.B. Burke Engineering out of Rosemont, Illinois. As noted, I'm Sean Dorsey. I'm with Public Works. Also from Public Works, we have Jeff Wolbecker, our village engineer. I think you should wave or something, Jeff. There.
Right here.
That's Jeff. And Matt Laurie, our assistant village engineer. And with Christopher Burke, we have Steve Sugg, who's the last guy. Steve has primarily been the project manager for this project, working on the design and working with the various agencies to develop the project. To give you some of the background, the village has been interested in multimodal transportation and improving the ability to get around throughout the community through non-vehicular means for a number of years. Back in 2012, the village board approved a bike plan, which involved developing bike route connections throughout the village. This particular plan is a connection to a village-wide bike plan. It involves essentially a connection to the ComEd right-of-way, where there's an existing trail. But more importantly, it also connects bicyclists and pedestrians along a very busy commercial corridor in what would arguably be an underserved area with respect to bicyclist or pedestrian facilities on the village's far south side. As everyone knows, Algonquin Road is a very busy area, has a high volume of traffic. It has a paced bus routes. It has a lot of businesses that generate quite a bit of traffic. So maneuvering through the area, either on foot or on bike, is pretty difficult given the existing conditions. So ultimately, we developed this project. We selected a design firm. We selected Christopher Burke, who has done this type of work throughout the area and has quite a reputation and a long list of successful transportation-oriented projects. So they've done a nice job developing the project. In addition, one of the things that we've tried to emphasize with this project is working with other stakeholders, and that includes the Illinois Department of Transportation, or IDOT. One thing of note, Algonquin Road is an IDOT road in Mount Prospect. The village does not own or maintain the roadway, and as a consequence, we need to work with IDOT in order to construct any facilities, a bike path or sidewalks or street lighting or any other improvements in this stretch of roadway. We also have worked in conjunction with the Northwest Municipal Conference, which is responsible for coordinating transportation funding within the Northwest suburban area. And they also have published a more regional bike plan that we're looking to complement and leverage. So some of the work that Burke and our staff have completed to date include topographic surveys of the area, as well as some preliminary design studies that we can present to you today. And then we'll also talk about some of the construction funding alternatives that we hope we can use to fund this project. And with this, I will turn things over to Steve at Christopher Burke to kind of talk about some of the existing conditions that we have along the proposed route. Steve?
Thanks, Sean. So what we have here are some photographs of existing conditions. As you can see in the upper left corner, and this happens a lot, there are bus stops out there with no sidewalk access. So people waiting for buses have to stand in the grass or mud or snow or whatever the case may be. To the immediate right, this is right at the Moretti's parking lot. So there's sidewalk from the west, and this is where the sidewalk ends. And then from this stretch all the way for a good distance to the east, there is no sidewalk at all on the south side. The lower photo, Sean discussed this. So that's the ComEd path that's south of Algonquin Road. And what we're planning on doing is we'd put a bike path there to have bicycle access to the paths. And we'll show that to you in a little more detail when we get to the our geometrics. Then the far right, the upper right corner is the existing condition, and below that is a rendering of what it would look like with sidewalk. So it's just a 5-foot sidewalk along there. So this is on the north side. Again, United property, there is no sidewalk or anything. Actually, the sidewalk on the north side is very sporadic. There are a lot of locations where there is no sidewalk. This is where we'd be putting an 8-foot path. So the left again is the United property. The upper right is again where sidewalk just kind of ends. So you have an ADA crossing, but there's nowhere to go to. So we would be able to have the bike path extend along there. And the bottom right is it's a bus shelter right near Elmhurst Road, and we'll get into that a little bit more too later on. So we talked a lot with the village about all the project goals, what we're trying to do here with this project, and again, there's a couple renderings on the right there. So the bike path would be on the south side of the north side of the street. We have a bicyclist there. But the goal is to really improve pedestrian and bicycle safety. Even walking along there right now is dangerous. You certainly wouldn't want to ride your bike on Algonquin Road without the number of trucks and the heavy volumes of traffic. So really, Algonquin Road is not suitable for bicycle traffic at all. And again, as Sean mentioned, there is a lot out there, places you could walk to and places you could bike to, or people even who work in this area. But unfortunately, you can't do any of those because of the lack of access. Another goal to become more green is to reduce vehicular trips. And at the same time, you're providing a public health benefit by giving people an opportunity to be able to walk and ride along Algonquin Road. And then one other thing that we want to do with this is we want to upgrade the existing roadway lighting, put lighting where none exists, and we also want to retrofit existing lights with LED lights, which are much more energy efficient, and it's a nice white light instead of the light that's currently out there right now. So again, just go through these pretty quickly. In a new bike path on the north side of Algonquin Road, we'll fill in the sidewalk gap where none currently exists. Swap out the sodium vapor lights and extend lighting all the way from United Airlines facility to Elmhurst Road. So about half of this project is unlit right now, which again is dangerous for pedestrians and bicyclists. So the goal is to have lighting throughout the whole project length. And then we'll get into the bottom two. We're going to put a new bicycle crossing on the west leg of Algonquin and Dempster, and a pedestrian crossing at Algonquin and Linneman. So what we're going to do now is, oops. Okay, I'm doing this wrong. Sorry.
Steve, make sure you're holding down control.
I am, and I'm using the wheel and it's advancing to, oh, here we go. Wrong way, sorry. Okay. I think that's, I'll go one more. Okay, here we go. All right, sorry about that, technical difficulties here. But again, as Sean mentioned, the project would begin at Dearborn Court, which is the West Village terminus. And we'd be placing a new bike path to replace the existing sidewalk along the whole north side. There is existing sidewalk on the south side, so there wouldn't be any need to do that. Periodically throughout these, you're going to see we have proposed temporary easement. What we need to do is we need to regrade driveways to make them ADA compliant, American Disabilities Act. So the steepest these driveways can be is 2%. So a lot of these are steeper than that. And the only way to attain the proper grades across the driveways is to grade onto the private properties. Again, there's a number of existing bus stops out here that don't have any concrete for the people to wait on, or for loading and unloading the buses. So this would allow people to get to the buses much easier. And kind of moving along here, we want to put a new bike path crossing. So right now there's a pedestrian crossing. So this would allow, right now people, you'd have to come across here if you want to go from one path to the other side, and it's of course very dangerous. So people take bike path to here, cross bike path to this point, and then continue south on the bike path. So this would be a brand new bike crossing. We'd also have bike crossings here too. So again, all these lights will be retrofitted with, you can see the existing lights here will be retrofitted with LED lights, much brighter light, be safer again for everybody. So just kind of going along here, again, all bike path and kind of meanders around a little bit because we're trying to get around utility poles and fire hydrants and some other things. So right here is the Moretti's parking lot well, it's over here. So this sidewalk, the sidewalk currently ends right at this point. And what we would do is we begin sidewalk improvements, which would extend to the east. And again, we're continuing the path on the north side. And the existing lighting ends right about in this area here. So from this point all to the east would be new lighting. So lighting where none currently exists. Just going to kind of keep panning along through here. So again, we're changing the alignment of the sidewalk as needed here. We're going in front of the bus shelter and then trying to keep it as far away as practical from the Algonquin Road curb. At this point, we'd have a brand new, this is Linneman, a brand new pedestrian crossing. There's none currently here right now. This ped crossing would remain. We just don't show it as being proposed because it is there and the road was newly resurfaced. So we'll continue along. And again, there's a number of easements. Here's another one of them. Again, it's steep driveways and we're going to correct that. Here's yet another one. And then the sidewalk would end at this point. And then we pick up here. Nope, no, we don't pick up. Okay, I'm sorry. Technical difficulties again. Here we go. Okay. So we came, this is where we ended with the previous slide. So then there's existing sidewalk all along here, all the way to Elmhurst Road. And then the proposed bike path would continue again on the north side. We'd have to acquire some right of way here because we had to move the bus shelter back, or I'm sorry, move the path behind the bus shelter. So that would be to accommodate. And then the project ends right here at Elmhurst Road. Okay. This thing is very touchy. All right. Here we go. Okay. All right, Sean. Sorry. Can you guys?
Sean, are you on mute?
Yeah, I can't hear you, Sean. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, all right.
Were my lips moving? Is that
Yeah.
okay? Let me try that again. Thanks to Steve and the folks at Burke for putting together that layout. I think it gave a pretty good idea of where we're planning to propose improvements. But in addition, kind of give you the scope of the work and what's involved. It's pretty involved. There's a lot of challenges, as Steve related, with respect to the number of driveways, existing conditions, utility poles, the slope of existing terrain, driveways, and sidewalks. So quite a few challenges, not to mention the width of the existing right-of-way, the volume of traffic, and just various other things. So it's a pretty ambitious project, not the least of which would also include the lighting, which I think the roadway would definitely benefit from. So a bit involved, and it's a project really that is beyond the scope of the village to pay for completely. So one of the things that we're trying to do is develop a project that can be funded with, I guess, other people's money, federal money, or it seems, or state money to fund the lion's share of the proposed project. We're having this public meeting that we're conducting today is part of a process, a phase 1 study process that's actually a formal process intended to make projects more attractive or more eligible, if you will, when they are considered for various grant programs. So that's the purpose of developing the project in this particular way. So having this type of a meeting is a very specific benchmark in that process. It's something that's required to explain what we are trying to develop. Normally, these meetings are held in person as part of like an open house type of an affair, but given the current situation, that's hard to do these days. So we're modifying the program a little bit with a virtual meeting, and that's why we're doing it in this way. I would note that we're doing it live presently. You guys are live, right? Everyone's live. I am. We're doing it live, and but it's also being recorded and it'll be posted. There'll be links to access this meeting on the village website at a later date, later this week, I believe. There is a public comment period for this project, so if you have comments, we can give you information on where to direct those comments at the end. But that period ends formally October 21st, so in a few weeks. We intend to submit an application for a program, for a grant program. It's the Illinois Transportation Enhancement Program, or ITEP funding, in early November. We plan to complete this phase 1 project later this winter, and hopefully we'll receive notice of award for funding in early 2021 and begin the actual design phase. And we would expect that the project would be ready for public bidding and ultimately construction. And that would include everything like getting IDOT permits and any other permits. An agreement signed. We should be ready to go by the spring of 2023. So that's the proposed timeline for the project. And with that, I think I'll turn things over to Matt Laurie, who is our assistant village engineer, and Matt is the staff representatives who has been managing and directing this project, and he can give you some information about how to contact him or how to make contacts or make comments regarding this project. Matt?
Thanks, Sean. As Steve mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, at the bottom of your screens, you should see a Q&A tab. If anyone that's listening live today has any questions that you'd like immediately answered, you can go to the Q&A tab, type in your question, and we'll hang out for a little bit at the end of this presentations and be able to answer any of your questions. Should you have any questions or comments moving forward, you can reach us at the email or at the phone number that's shown on the screen. The email address is publicworksdept@mountprospect.org. You can also call us at the Public Works Department at 847-870-5640. As Sean mentioned, I will be the primary contact for the project, so feel free to call or email, and I'd be happy to answer any of your questions regarding the project. As Steve also mentioned at the beginning, we have a project webpage, and the address is shown there on the screen. It's www.mountprospect.org/Algonquin Path. And the webpage has more information about the project. It also has a link to our brief online survey that we'd love to get your input on. That survey will be available until October 21st. The project webpage will go on well after that. You can periodically check it out for updates on the project. And so with that, if there are any questions or comments, we'd be happy to answer them. If you do think of any afterwards, feel free to give either myself a phone call or an email, and I'd be happy to answer any specific questions as to how it may affect your property or general questions about the project itself.
I'd like to add one more thing too. Public support will go a long way toward obtaining ITEP funding. So if the viewers are really in favor of this project, please let the village know. We will include that in our application. And again, it would be a big boost to the village to obtain this money from the state.
It's a good point, Steve, because these applications are competitive. There's other people, right, that are looking for funding for different projects. This project in particular has a lot of things going for it. It emphasizes a lot of aspects of transportation in the 21st century that are attractive to those that are handling grant funding. It involves multiple agencies, It involves multimodal transportation. It helps to improve air quality and reduce congestion in an urban area. So to that extent, we think it's well positioned to receive grant funding, and it certainly would benefit from public support. So if you could reach out to us and let us know your thoughts, it would certainly help. With that, I think we have a question.
Nigel, you mind reading that to us?
Yep, I got it. So Ken McLaren has asked for 1449 East Algonquin Road. How will you handle our steep driveways, both the west and east driveways? How will you prevent stormwater from spilling onto our property?
You want me to take that, or?
I can take that one.
Okay, Joe.
So recently IDOT resurfaced Algonquin Road, and we were able to get a catch basin installed just upstream of this driveway. And we were able to get them to raise the back of the depressed curb through this driveway. And so we will continue those efforts to not lower the parkway or the driveway elevations, and raise them if we can, to continue to provide additional protection for that property and keep the water that's on the pavement on Algonquin Road from spilling into the driveways.
Thanks, Jeff. Hopefully that was an adequate answer. If we don't answer all your questions thoroughly, please feel free to give us a call at Public Works. We'd be happy to follow up. In addition, I think we can give additional detail to questions like that, in particular following the phase 2, the next phase. This is an early phase. It's rather conceptual, and so some of those details aren't known yet, but we're aware of those problems, and we'd certainly work to resolve them to the extent that we can with this project. Did anyone else have any additional comments or?
I'm not seeing anything in there right now.
Okay. All right. Well, I think with that, if there are no more questions or concerns, did any of the panelists have any other statements or comments that they'd like to make at this point?
I'll just say that based on Ken's question, Ken, if you feel like you'd like to have one of staff meet with you out on your property, you could either call myself this week or drop me an email. We'd be also happy to meet with you out at your property to talk about your specific concerns. I'm not exactly familiar with the layout for your driveway, but we'd be happy to come out and have a conversation with you if you'd like so.
Okay. Thank you, Matt. I think with that, it can kind of concludes our presentation. We thank those who attended, and if something pops in your head afterwards, please feel free to reach out to us at a later date. We'd be happy to talk with anyone further. So with that, I thank the